Hi, my name is Jonathan Ramirez, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about juvenile crime. I believe juvenile crime has become a problem in today's society, and it's only getting worse. So I feel like we need to do something about this now before it gets completely out of hand. And my solution to that is by setting a mandatory curfew for people under the age of 18. The first youth curfew happened in Omaha, Nebraska in 1890. In 1957, 57 of the 109 total cities with populations over 100,000 had curfews. And in the last 20 years, it's pretty much become essential that we do have curfews because youth crime has skyrocketed. In 1991, Dallas, Texas came up with a youth curfew which kind of set the way for a lot of the other cities. They tailored it to apply to specific ages and times. There were a few exemptions from the rule, and those exemptions were being out with an adult, coming home from a school function, coming home from a religious function, or in case of any kind of emergency. Their studies showed that crime increased between the ages of 10 and 16 years old. Their studies also showed that juvenile murders oftenly occurred between the times of 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Youth aggravated assault oftenly occurred between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. and 31% of robberies occurred in public streets and highways. So they decided they needed to get these kids off the streets and during those hours because they were only committing bad acts. In wake of this new law, the American Civil Liberties Union tried to challenge this. The initial judge issued an injunction against Dallas and pretty much took the law off the books right then. They took it to the U.S. Court of Appeals, where the judge there said that they structured it to meet the needs of their city, so he allowed them to pass it. And the times of the curfew were 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. on weekdays and midnight to 6 a.m. on weekends. The police department let people know in the oncoming months before the curfew. They issued public service announcements in both English and Spanish. They posted signs all over the communities. And then the week before the curfew went into effect, they handed out warning slips to teenagers that were caught outside during it, letting them know that in the next week this was not going to be okay anymore. For the first couple of months, police discretion was allowed on what they could do. They had a couple options. They could issue a warning. They could take them into custody. They could take them home, or they could issue a ticket, and they could issue a ticket for up to $500. New Orleans also had a rule like this, but when they caught someone out during their hours, they took them into a teen correctional facility that was completely staffed with psychologists and medical professionals. During the first 3 months of Dallas's curfew, they saw a drop in juvenile crime by 17.4%, which is a pretty good amount. In 1996, two guys by the name of Ruffel and Reynolds conducted a survey. Out of the 65 major cities they surveyed, 54 of them had curfews in order. And their average was, in the year of enactment, arrests fell by an average of 8%, and in the years after that, arrests fell by as much as 30%. Okay, I'm going to show you guys some graphs. This top graph shows violent crimes committed by youth. As you can see where it starts out, it goes up a little bit every year. This green dot is where the curfew came in order. As you can see, after the green dot, it kind of just goes on a down spiral, and it kind of levels off right here. This pink line right here is the 3-year mark. At the end of the 3-year mark, violent crimes committed by youth had dropped by 20%. And all the way over here is the 7-year mark, and at 7 years, the violent crimes committed by youth had dropped 23%. So you can see a pretty big drop. This bottom one is property crimes committed by youth. Once again, you kind of have like a steady start, spikes a little bit, and the green dot shows when the curfew came in order, and it goes down a little bit, but not too much, kind of levels off. The pink line is 3 years. At the end of 3 years, property crimes committed by youth had dropped 9%, and at 7 years, they had dropped by 12%. So not as much as violent crimes, but a 12% decrease in property crimes by youth is pretty good decrease. So to conclude, I believe a juvenile curfew can work. In cities that have adopted a curfew, they have seen a 10% decrease in juvenile crime in the first year, and the effects intensified in every year afterwards. So if parents cannot keep their kids at home and out of trouble, maybe it's society's job to help them out.